Hi, this is Gilgamesh. Again, I want to talk about, I'm making this video about the Biden's pick for the, Supreme Court. And why this woman should drop out. She has no business being on the Supreme Court, and a big problem with her is as a judge, she's gone totally lenient on sex predators. Those who make... She actually was put on... She thinks that those who make child porn, they should get rid of mandatory sentencing on it. Yeah. Look at this. Yes, the Senate should investigate I'm probably going to mess up her first name, Ketanji Brown Jackson's leniency towards sex predators. Yeah, this is all true. Josh Hawley brought this up. He tweeted this, that he was going to bring this up. And of course, what happens during the whole hearing? The Democrats defend her record. That tells you that. Same with Mitch McConnell. You can tell right away. This should disqualify her. The fact that she thinks it's okay to make child porn, and it even the federal sentence is ridiculously low, but she went even below that in her, and this woman's has no problem with that these men who make this child porn, pedophiles and child molesters, especially pedophiles, that they shouldn't have to register as sex offenders. That you don't have a right to know that somebody who makes child porn lives near, might move next to you. Let's look at this. The Senate Democrats have signaled their intent to begin confirmation hearings for Judge Jackson, President Biden's nominee. Biden, the pedophile president, picks a woman who thinks it's okay to rape kids, nominee to the Supreme Court as early as next week. Thus far, the only information uncovered about Judge Jackson by the intrepid corporate press is that she will be the first black woman to serve on the Supreme Court. Oh, yay! It's all because she's black. It's not because she's qualified. And this woman is not qualified to be on the Supreme Court. But research released this week by Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of, I think it's Montana or Missouri, a member of the Senate Judiciary, I always mess these words up, committee called into question Judge Jackson's judicial philosophy concerning sex predators, particularly sentencing for child sex predators, beginning with a paper she authored while a student at Harvard Law School. Judge Jackson appears to have a track record of both advocacy and sentencing decisions, demonstrating extreme leniency towards child sex predators. Perhaps more concerningly, her record also demonstrates an attempt to normalize a radical sex ideology of adults being attracted to minors. The word maps. Get the fuck out of here. Categorizing it not only as flatteringly criminal, but simply as misunderstood. Fuck this bitch. She should drop. We do not need this fucking this woman who thinks it's okay to rape kids. As Halsey pointed out in a tweet thread, beginning in law school, Judge Jackson questioned making convicts register as sex offenders, objecting to the stigmatization and ostracization it creates, and suggesting the public policy on the issue was driven by a climate of fear, hatred, and... These men are raping kids, you fucking bitch. This attitude was not simply that of a law school student pursuing novel legal theories. In fact, what Hawley had laid out is a pattern of behavior from Judge Jackson, one that began when she was in law school, evolved into advocacy while she served on the U.S. Sentencing Commission. Yep. And critically, one which she went on to implement as a judge. This is all fucking true. This is why this woman cannot, and any Democrat defends her as a pedophile. While at the U.S. Sentencing Commission, Judge Jackson advocated for eliminating the existing mandatory minimum sentence for child porn, suggesting that at least some people who possess child porn aren't sexually motivated. Oh, fuck off, bitch. That's why they have it, because they want to have sex with children, but simply in this for either the collection, oh my god, this woman's a fucking sex offender, or the people who are loners and find status in their, oh my god, what, a community. Oh, it's a community of fucking men and women who want to rape kids. Oh, okay. Pedophiles. That's what she's defending. While on the federal bench, Judge Jackson demonstrated a continuous string of departures from sentencing guidelines for sex predators. Yeah, she literally gave them a slap on the wrist. In one case involving a sex offender over the age of 18 caught with multiple images of child pornography. The sentencing guideline called for a sentence up to 10 years. Judge Jackson sentenced the perpetrator to 3 months. In another case, where the criminal distributed more than 102 child pornography videos and sent lewd pictures of his own 10-year-old daughter, the guidelines recommended 97 to 121 months in prison. Judge Jackson sentenced him to 71 months. Halsey's tweet thread lists 5 other similar sentencing examples. The White House attempted to dismiss these concerns as cherry-picking elements of her record out of... No, fuck you. That's why you have a pedophile in the fucking White House. Why you all... Fucking every Democrat supports raping children. That's why they fucking have sex with children. But Judge Jackson's philosophy towards sex offenders is hardly a one-off, as both her statements and sentencing history demonstrate. Rather, these views appear to be fundamental in her judicial philosophy, beginning as a law student, then as a practicing attorney, and then as a judge. If confirmed to the Supreme Court, Jackson will presumably continue to apply those legal views, but this time with the input of the country's highest court. Senators should certainly take notice. Critiquing Judge Jackson's record is not disrespectful. Senator Chuck Grassley, the lead Republican has pledged to hold a fair, thorough hearing, adding, "We won't get in the gutter like the Democrats did," appearing to reference the baseless accusations Democrats hurled at Justice Brett Kavanaugh and the personal attacks leveled at Justice Amy Coney Barrett. These are actually real... Democrats are already claiming that Halsey's critique of Jackson's judicial raises to the level as, say, entertaining completely unverified gang rape allegations against a Supreme Court nominee. Fuck off. This is why these fucking Democrats are pedophiles. I'm troubled by it because it is so outrageous. Yeah, Dick Durbin, when's the last time you didn't touch a little kid? Democratic Whip Senator Dick Durbin. He looks like he fucks a few boys. It really tests the committee as to whether we're going to respect the way we treat this. Oh, because she's a black woman, you fucking pedophile. This is, to put it politely, absurd nonsense. Halsey's assessment of Judge Jackson isn't a personal or disrespectful attack. It isn't an attack in her adopted children. Oh, she adopted children. Oh, great. She probably had them get fucking raped. Or interrogating the nominees for yes, Democrats and their media allies did that to Brett Kavanaugh. It is squarely in the lane of an analysis of her career as a judge. Far from being outrageous, it is quite literally the job of the U.S. Senate, who are constitutionally taxed with the role of advice and consent. It is exactly what senators should be doing, scrutinizing the record and judicial philosophy of nominees to every count, and especially to the Supreme Court. For Republicans to assume they can take it easy on this nominee because they assume the confirmation is inevitable, They're concerned about optics or because her confirmation to replace outgoing liberal Justice Stephen Breyer will not at this moment change the ideological makeup of a 6-3 court is so fundamentally misconstrue. I think that's what I said, misconstrue what they are there to do. Advice and consent does not mean, well, not this time, or she's going to be confirmed anyway. It means, what it says, it means a thorough review of the nominee's record, judgment, and judicial fitness to serve on the highest court in the country. This is especially true of Judge Jackson, who is just at 51 years old, would be serving on a court for decades to come through future ideological shifts, including one that might place the court's liberals back in charge. A thorough hearing will involve all of Judge Jackson's record. Biden's administration and its backers have offered no substantive defense of Jackson's record, while the White House has dismissed Halsey's critique as cherry-picking. That buckles under the lightest scrutiny. They have failed to demonstrate how. They've resorted instead to tossing complete non-sequiturs at Halsey, calling him an insurrectionist, and bizarrely trying to tie him to a former Alabama candidate Roy Moore. Oh, God. Yeah, Halsey represents Missouri. Okay. But the flags in Judge Jackson's record are not cherry-picked, nor are they taken out of context. Rather, they are a pattern. Moreover, Hurley, unrelated charges at Harley, while failing to offer a defense of Jackson's sentencing decisions, suggests that Democrats know there isn't one. All of this implies they may be more to uncover. What else do her records at the Sentencing Commission say? Truly thorough and thorough hearing, the kind that Grassley suggests he wants, and will involve the Sentencing Commission turning over all of Judge Jackson's records. It will involve rigorous examination of her views and record on child sex predators, as well as other topics like the nominee's stated position on critical race theory and how that shapes her jurisprudence. But to do any of this requires Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee to demonstrate rigor in their scrutiny of Jackson's record. This means they must swat aside criticism from Senate Democrats who have no grounds to claim anything is outrageous ever again, not after the circus they unleashed around the confirmation of Justice Kavanaugh. They must demand records from recent agencies, and they must refuse to accept non-substantive answers from the White House, the nominee, or anyone else. Yeah. And here's Josh Hawley lists 7 lenient, Judge Jackson's. Yeah, she's gone, as you saw in the previous one. Oh, here's
from your time on the court, the district court, the federal district court, that I hope that we can talk about. Let me just run through a few of them. So
this is him talking about her, bringing up about her light sentences for sex, those that make child porn and everything, and how she thinks it's okay.
I know exactly which ones I mean. United States versus Hawkins. This was a child pornography case where the defendant distributed multiple images of child porn, possessed dozens more, including videos. The federal sentencing guidelines recommended a sentence of 97 to 121 months in prison. Prosecutors recommended 24 months in prison. Judge Jackson gave the defendant 3 months in prison. United States versus Chazen. That case, the defendant possessed 48 files of child pornography. The federal guidelines recommended 78 to 97 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended the same. Judge Jackson sentenced him to 28 months.
Do you hear this? This is a record. This woman is not qualified to be on the Supreme Court. And knowing that she's all for critical race theory, this should get her in. Of course, Democrats are defending her. They have
United States versus Cooper. There, the defendant possessed dozens of images of child pornography and distributed dozens of images of child pornography, possessed over 600. The federal guidelines recommended 151 to 188 months in prison. That's a long time. The prosecutor recommended 72 months. Judge Jackson gave the defendant 60 months, which was the lowest sentence permitted by the law. United States versus Down, that's a case where the defendant distributed 33 graphic images and videos of child sexual assault to an anonymous messaging app, unfortunately a practice that's becoming more common. The federal guidelines recommended 70 to 87 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended 70 months in prison. Judge Jackson sentenced him to only 60 months. Again, that's the lowest level that was permitted by law in that case. United States versus Stewart, the defendant there distributed scores of images of children suffering sexual abuse. The guidelines recommended 97 to 121 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended 97 months in prison. Judge Jackson gave him 57 months. In United States versus Sears, the defendant distributed over 100 videos of child pornography. The guidelines recommended 97 to 121 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended 97 months in prison. Judge Jackson gave him 71 months. In United States versus Savage, the defendant was convicted of traveling across state lines to engage in sexual intercourse with a child and also possessed 6 separate thumb drives of child pornography. The guidelines recommended 46 to 57 months in prison. The prosecutor recommended 49 months in prison. Judge Jackson sentenced him to 37 months in prison. Now, those are 7 cases that represent, as near as we can tell, all of Judge Jackson's cases dealing with child pornography from her time on the district court, in which she had some discretion to hand down a sentence. There's some other cases in which she didn't have any discretion. The law bound the sentence that she had to give. And what concerns me, and I've been very candid about this, is that in every case, in each of these 7, Judge Jackson handed down a lenient sentence that was below what the federal guidelines recommended and below what prosecutors requested.
Do you hear this? This woman thinks it's okay to have sex with children. She really, when you read that she wanted to get rid of minimums and they shouldn't register, you have no right to know if a sex offender has moved into your neighborhood. Nope, you don't deserve to know that stuff. She thinks it's okay to fuck children, make porn about raping kids. This woman did not have, she adopted kids. I don't know who would let her adopt any children after knowing this shit. This woman is unqualified to be on the bench.
A lot to talk about there, and I look forward to talking about it.
Yeah. What the fuck is this? God fucking hell. Fucking stupid advertising. Goddamn garbage. Damn it. I didn't even push yet. Oh, I hate that. Yeah, here's Josh Hawley you saw where he was talking about their hearings haven't even begun. He simply brought what he's going to bring up about her, at least 7 of these. This will let her know what's coming. He probably is going to uncover more about this woman that is going to, and Democrats can't defend her. Like that said, they have no room after the way they treated. And here, like he said, these are the ones. These are the 7 that he was bringing up. There's more. There's one where a guy was actually distributed pictures of his own daughter. This woman is vile. In fact, that nobody on YouTube is talking about this, and they should be, because if this woman gets on the she may sway this court to fucking legalize pedophilia. Do you understand what that means? That adults will be able to fuck all the sex offenders will never have to go to prison. They've already done it in California. These Democrats are fucking all into fucking kids, and Mitch McConnell and those rhinos, any fucking Republican, and of course Lindsey Graham. What a not surprise that he's all into children. Yeah, this woman should be remove herself, but she won't do that. She's into CRT. She thinks that yeah. And former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy also defended Jackson. This is what gets me. I read this and it pissed me off. This piece of shit right here has defended her, saying that, for first-time offenders for child pornography is draconian. The implication that she has a soft spot for sex offenders who prey on children because she argued against severe mandatory, they need to be in prison. No, it isn't. I've heard that argument a lot in recent days. He said, I can't say that I agree with that. Other Republicans have also weighed in on her qualifications, some including, of course, Susan Collins, a rhino. Oh, they're impressed with her, it's okay to rape kids. And of course, here's the piece of shit who thinks he's going to be running the Senate. If they put him in charge of the Senate, fuck the Republicans. But others continue to push criticism that she is sought. Her service as criminal defense lawyer and on the U.S. Senate Commission gave her special empathy. Empathy! I don't care about convicts. Understand this. What he's saying is, she feels bad for those pedophiles who go after children. Of course, Lindsey Graham opened his mouth. That the confirmation hearing will not be. Oh, fuck off! Him bringing this shit up is actually the right move. Yeah, here's another one I was looking at that I gathered. This is the woman. She thinks it's okay to rape kids, and Democrats are defending her. And you saw where even Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham are all like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, this is next. Is it this week? Yeah, it is this week. She clearly, she's particularly labor union, highly skeptical and not downright hostile to any attempt to limit their ability to unionize. Senators should ask tough and probing questions of Jackson in order to learn more about her judicial philosophy and approach to resolving legal disputes. Yeah. This woman is a threat to our country. I mean, her thoughts on CRT are, she believes in it. She's also, like the whole thing with illegal immigration. She's crossed the line on that stuff. Because the courts actually cannot, when it comes to Homeland Security, and we're talking immigration, the courts cannot actually rule on this, and she's been told this. She got into, when she actually stepped in where she wasn't allowed to. Yeah, this woman is a threat to our country. Yeah, I've been looking at her. In fairness, this tactic, which has come to be known as the Ginsburg rule, has been, they use this against. I mean, it's so ridiculous. They're basically. Yeah, she won't answer the ones about. Oh no, she won't, because this is like they said, the Ginsburg rule. Where she'll just not answer, and that right there should disqualify her. But of course, her philosophy. One area that she will be asked to address is her judicial philosophy. During her confirmation hearing to the D.C. courts last year, Jackson indicated that she does not have per se, a surprising answer for someone who clerked for 3 judges, including a Supreme Court justice, and who has has been a federal judge for 8 years. In response to written questions from Senator Charles Grassley of Iowa, a Republican, who pressed her on the issue, Jackson wrote, "What is that as a lower court judge, she was not at liberty to interpret the text of the Constitution in any manner other than as the court has directed." She added that as a sitting judge, she has an ethical obligation to avoid commenting on or providing personal views or disputed legal matters, such as the most appropriate method of interpreting the Constitution. The Bob and Weaver answer will not cut it, as I have written. Furthermore, it is one thing not to comment on a legal issue that may come before the court for resolution in the future, but the most appropriate method of interpreting the Constitution is not one of them. Judges and justices have written books and given speeches providing their views on that very subject many, many times, and Jackson should provide a direct and non-evasive answer to that question. You'll see whether she sticks with her previous answer and how it may fly if she does. Jackson's past. Another area that will clearly not be off limits, though, and where it will be harder for Jackson to duck and weave, is answering questions about her past opinions that she has written as a judge. And since she has written close to 600 of them over the course of her 8 years as a district court judge and roughly 6 months as an appellate judge, there will be much to talk about. Trump cases. Jackson was involved in 2 cases that impacted former President Donald Trump directly, which buoyed her supporters. In Committee on the Judiciary v. McGahn, I think that's how you pronounce it, the House Judiciary Committee filed a lawsuit seeking to compel testimony from former White House counsel Don McGahn in connection with the committee's investigation to potential foreign interference during the 2016, which there wasn't, not from Trump. In granting the committee's motion for summary judgment, Jackson held that the committee had standing to file the suit. No, they didn't. And the committee was inappropriate for a court to decide, even though it involved a dispute between 2 branches of government. Actually, she didn't. In so holding, she wrote, simply put, the temporary takeover from 250 years of recorded American history is that the president is not, they never said he was a king. This means that they do not have subjects bound by loyalty or blood, whose destiny they are entitled to control. What the fuck is she talking about? Today, it's so fucking, this woman is retarded. The Department of Justice has not argued that Trump was a king or above the law. These phrases, though, were frequently invoked by liberal politicians and pundits at the time to caudicate the president. No. And it is troubling that Jackson chose to parrot this unnecessarily inflammatory rhetoric. A 3-judge D.C. court panel reversed Jackson on the issue of standing and judiciary, but the D.C. courts sitting in all active judges of the court, not just the panel, reversed the original panel on the first issue, and the case settled before the second issue. As an appellate judge, Jackson recently joined opinion written by Judge Patricia Mellett in Trump v. Thomas, upholding a lower court decision rejecting Trump's efforts to block the release of documents being held by the National Archives to the January 6th committee after the Biden administration declined to assert executive privilege to block their release. The Supreme Court refused to intervene, with only Justice Thomas Clarence dissenting. Labor cases. Jackson has issued several significant opinions in labor law cases that likely go a long way in explaining why liberal groups like Demand Justice designated her as their personal preferred nominee. She is clearly partial to labor unions and is highly skeptical, if not downright hostile, to any attempt to limit their ability to unionize or engage in collective bargaining. In AM-Fed government versus Trump, Jackson ruled in favor of the federal labor union, challenging 3 of Trump's executive orders related to collective bargaining rights. The executive orders limited the issues unions could bargain over, the amount of time labor unions offer. This is all communism. She's a communist. Except for the pedophile shit. Should spend with union members and the right of the members to appeal. See, the problem with this is unions are all communists. They are. They don't care. The whole thing of, it's all socialism and communism. Jackson concluded that those orders conflicted with the federal. See, and here's the funny thing. And and here's where she's an idiot and doesn't know the law. A unanimous D.C. court panel reversed her decision, holding that Jackson did not have subject matter jurisdiction and that such claims had to be pursued through the administrative process established under the federal labor. Yeah, she's been overturned several times by her bullshit, she is just an idiot. In a pair of written opinions in AFL versus N, Jackson invalidated a National Labor Relation Board rule that amended union election procedures to slow down the union election process. She concluded that the rule contained more than procedural rule changes and should have been subjected to notice and comment rulemaking requirements in the Administrative Procedure Act. In the AFL, fucking unions, versus federal labor, a group of public sector union challengers challenged a 2020 rule by the Federal Labor Relations Authority that raised the threshold for management initiated changes to employment conditions that would trigger collective bargaining rights. In her first major opinion as a judge on the D.C. courts, Jackson invalidated the rule, which raised the threshold from changes that had de minimis effort on a condition of employment to change that had to impact on a condition of employment, concluding the authority decision was insignificant reasoned, and therefore arbitrarily and capricious in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. Professor Jonathan Alder described this opinion as erroneous, unduly strict application of Supreme Court precedent. Immigration cases. Oh, this is where she's fucking shit. She's also a fucking idiot. See, this is why you don't put these people on, give them jobs where they have to think. They're morons. There is at least one high-profile case in which Jackson appeared to stretch the law and was overturned to frustrate the Trump administration's effort to rigorously enforce our nation's immigration laws. Oh yeah, here's the problem. She was overruled because she cannot actually get involved in immigration cases. In Make the Road New York versus immigration advocacy groups brought a pre-enforcement challenge to the Department of Homeland Security Secretary decision to expand the category of non-citizens that would be subject to expedited removal from the United States. Jackson entered a national preliminary injunction to prevent the revised rule from taking effect, concluded that she had jurisdiction to consider the case and that the plaintiffs were likely to succeed. No, they weren't. On their claim that the agency act... She is such a fucking idiot. Jesus Christ, this woman is such a fucking moron. In doing so, she wrote the government's argument was... She is a fucking retard. This woman is a defender of pedophiles, of sex offenders. She doesn't know shit about the law because here it comes. This is what's so fucking hilarious. The D.C. courts reversed her injunction. The majority opinion written by fellow Obama appointee Millett held that while the district court had jurisdiction to consider the matter, Congress had granted the secretary sole unreviewable discretion on expedited removal determinations. Judge Naomi, I think that's how you pronounce it, Rayo dissented, arguing that the district court lacked jurisdiction because the Immigration and Nationality Act bars judicial review of secretary discretionary decisions about expedited removal. Yep. In Wolf, Jackson ruled in favor of 5 non-citizens who were subject to expedited removal against the Trump administration and held that changes made by the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration... Yeah, this... She had no power to do this. She doesn't. She already knows she can't do this. And so she violates the law, and, you know what's going to happen. Eventually this will get overturned. She hates America. And Center for, Environmental Groups challenged the Homeland Security Secretary's the illegal immigration reform expediting construction of the border wall in contrast to her decision granted the government... Yeah, she had no choice. Was in a case while Jackson sided with the government, in the case of several advocate groups challenged the government's policy holding non-citizens in custody, customs, and border, which they claim were... No, they're not. That was under Obama. Jackson held that while the plaintiffs had stand-in to bring the case, the detention policy was a reasonable interpretation of she couldn't do anything. She knew it. Other important administrative cases: Policy and Research versus HHS, and a companion case. Jackson ruled that Department of Health and Human Services announcement that it was going to shorten the time period for grants for teen pregnancy prevention programs from 5 years, 3 years was abhorrently and capricious in violation because it was issued without notice of... Jesus Christ, she's an idiot. For example, while agreeing with the Endangered Species Act would allow the Interior to protect fairy shrimp, what the fuck, in vernal pools that were occupied by them, Jackson agreed that the plaintiff that the agency designation of the land and water between the pools, she needs to fucking go. This woman's a pile of shit. I mean, she's fucking retarded. Versus Department of Defense. Jackson rejected the plaintiff's constitutional challenge to Section 8 of the Small Business Administration Act, which establishes a program of God, I'm going to get this word out. Preferential treatment in government contracting for business owners by social disadvantaged individuals, concluding that the program satisfied strict scrutiny. The district court, over a particular dissent, affirmed her decision on different grounds that the Supreme Court declined. Of course they did. Another important quote, In Students for Fair Administration versus President and Fellows of Harvard College and Students for Fair versus University of North Carolina, the justices will reconsider whether racial preferences in college administrations are constitutional. In both cases, the administration policy makes it significantly more likely that black applicants will be admitted and significantly less likely that Asian applicants will be admitted than other similarly qualified applicants. Jackson will be asked whether she will commit to recuse herself from taking part in the consideration of these cases. This is a legitimate question. While Jackson was not involved in the deposition or disposition of either of these cases as they wended their way through lower court, she has been a member of the Harvard Board of Overseers since 2016. Yeah. Yeah, and here's this. I'm going through this because no one's talking about this shit. Yeah, she is, once again, the child pornography stuff. This should worry any parent. If this woman gets on the Supreme Court, she literally can make it legal to fuck children. I mean, God, this woman is... In recent weeks, Florida has been the scene of an incredible propaganda campaign to mainstream the sexualization of very young children. In concert with the far left's agenda to intimidate people about the science of sex and gender, major media outlets participated in a misleading effort to label Florida's new law and much-needed anti-grooming law as the Don't Say Gay bill. This is how formally trusted media sources are labeling a bill that prevents teachers from exposing young children to explicit pornography and sexual material, or persuading children as young as 4 to change their genders without their parents' consent or knowledge. And in case you think no one does such things, the law came about as a direct result of a lawsuit against Florida school district that did them. Yeah. One can glean from this disgraceful episode in Florida that this is no paranoid delusion. There is a nefarious forces hell-bent on sexualizing young children in the name of gender ideology, all the way down to kindergarten and preschool. Hardcore gender ideology, the kind of people who literally believe that it is educational and not abusive to teach children about BDSM, having used the newfound trendiness of their cause to drag the current political conversation into direction, and the media watchdogs who should be warning the public are instead taking up arms on the side of the child groomers. Yep. When adults stop thinking rationally, the criminal justice system is the last resort for the children they let down. It is therefore necessary to look carefully at how judges handle defendants found guilty of crimes against children. And that's where this comes in, where Judge Jackson. Right now, senators have a moral obligation to think very carefully about pedophile Joe Biden's new, Judge Jackson and her record in handling defendants convicted of crimes against children. Missouri Representative Senator Josh Hawley began the discussion in Jackson's record last week, describing on Twitter how in multiple criminal child pornography cases she had departed downward from the sentencing guidelines. She had handed out light prison sentences, and in many cases, the minimum legal sentence, even to those caught possessing massive quantities of the stuff and even sharing it online. Jackson once served on the U.S. Sentencing Commission, where she advocated the abolition of mandatory minimum sentences for those caught with child pornography. Even before that, she had supported freeing such convicts from the obligation to register as sex offenders once freed from prison. This is disturbing because dating back to the 80s, research has constantly pointed to the correlation between the use of child pornography and child molestation. According to the Mayo Clinic, as many as 80% of those who view child pornography have also molested a child in real life. This is why such restrictives, while perhaps not appropriate for every sex-related crime, are necessary for such offenders. Parents need to know if convicted addicts of child pornography end up in their neighborhoods because it means their children are at risk. Jackson thinking on this topic is that such particularly lifelong punishment are such examples of stigmatization and revenge against those who harm children, but this is at least 20 years behind the current thinking on this topic. The Catholic Church learned the hard way through its own shameful child sex scandals that the rehabilitation of sex offenders is simply impossible. The church belated applications, and that lesson, among others, has been highly effective in curbing new abuse cases. Of the 3,766 credible church-related abuse allegations brought forward in the United States between 2019 and 2020, only 39 of them, or roughly 1%, related to abuse that occurred in 2010 or later. Most of these newly reported abuse cases occurred between the 60s and 90s, back when Jackson's current views on sex offenders dominated among psychiatric professionals, and the church was helping abusers avoid criminal justice and disgracefully shuffling them back into parishes where, after a few years of therapy, oh, Jesus Christ. Yep. The question that senators need to be asking right now is whether this moment, with the nation suffering from its leaders' general softness on crime amid an organized effort to mainstream sexualization of children, is the correct moment to send someone with Jackson's record to the Supreme Court. At the very least, Jackson needs to be asked about her puzzling, disturbing position with respect to this timely issue. Yeah. Senators have every right to, yeah, they do. This woman fucking thinks, seriously, you've seen it. This woman and the Democrats think it's okay for adults to fuck children. You see the evidence. This Don't Say Gay bill is actually an anti-groomer bill in Florida. You have fucking in, let's look at this. This is true. I'm going to show you this. Yeah, you want to see how bad? Oh yeah, this is 4 Disney employees arrested in Florida. This is just recently. Yeah. This was just fucking recently this happened. Yeah, where another 4 fucking employees caught, yeah, arrested in Florida, human trafficking and child predator sting. Jesus Christ. They're fucking wanting to rape children. I mean, look at this. This guy, he's probably one of the greatest sheriffs. I mean, look at this shit. Yeah. This is what's so disgusting about this, is that you see this going on.
He's 27.
He is accused of sending sexual images to someone.
Yeah,
he
look at
thought
this.
Was a
This is a
14-year-old
press
girl.
conference.
Oh, did I mention that he just happens to be a lifeguard at the Polynesian Resort for Disney? You think there's a few children around
Holy
there?
shit.
Sheriff Grady Judd identified several other Disney employees
Look at this.
accused of
Look at this
soliciting a
shit.
prostitute.
And you say, oh, we should put
is
this
the
woman on the
Honorable
Supreme Court.
Daniel Peters.
Sheriff Judd said Peters is a retired judge from Cook County,
Oh
Illinois,
my
who thought he was
God.
meeting up with an escort.
He said, quote, "I've been on the other side of this." Well, I'd like to ask him today, so which side do you like best?
In one case, detectives had to reschedule a meeting. The
Look at
sheriff
this
said
fucking
Bradenton
disgusting
said
shit.
Phillips demanded money
This is the
anyway
shit
and showed
she
up at
thinks
the
is
house with his
okay.
girlfriend and a gun.
And this is what the Democrats think is
We opened the
okay.
door with 4 of our
If they put her
guys
on the
with
Supreme Court,
guns.
every Democrat and any
he's
fucking
got a
Republican
gun above
like
his
Mitch
head.
McConnell should be called
He's
a
coming
goddamn
down
pedophile.
with his gun.
If they confirm this, if every fucking
Christina
Democrat confirms
saves
this
his
bitch,
life by
every
jumping
one of
in
them's
front of
admitting
him.
they fuck
Nobody
children.
was
They like
hurt,
to have
but they
sex
were
with
both
children.
taken into
They have no
custody.
problem with this. Yeah,
I hated sticking my fingers. Then I got the Dexcom
what
G6.
the
I
fuck
just
is this?
glance at my phone and
God
there's my
fucking hell.
glucose number.
Fuck
Wow.
off.
My A1C's dropped over 2 points to
God
7.2.
fucking hell.
That's a
Damn it. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. They gotta hate that shit. Ads. But yeah, you see it. This woman is dangerous and should not be allowed to be on the Supreme Court. Children are a danger with this woman. So I just want to make this video because nobody else is talking about this and it needs to be brought up. This woman should not be on the Supreme Court. And any Democrat or Republican that votes her on the Supreme Court is telling you they have no problem with child sex offenders. They want to sexualize children. They want to rape them. They're fine with having sex with children. And trust me when I say your politicians are fucking participating in this. Yeah. You bet your ass they are. Well, I just want to do this. Have a great night.